You have not just this physical universe that you're in, but what is available to you is to actually go to parallel universes. And these parallel universes look very similar to the one you're in, and it's a physical experience. It's just like this. And in those parallel universes, when you go there, you can travel to other parallel universes where you yourself exist. You can navigate, once you go to that parallel universe, you can navigate the different dimensions in that universe. You can navigate the different dimensions in the universe you're in. For me, I'm doing this as an example of my own reality. But this is the dimension, or this is the universe I was born in. This is the universe I'm in right now, and this is another universe where I project my consciousness to. And you can travel to these different universes, and you can travel in these different dimensions. And that is a multi-dimensional awareness. Very important to have this. So, basically, that is where the human race needs to be. And if you are trapped right here, then the angels and the extraterrestrials cannot interact with you, because you're not of the level of consciousness where you can interact with an interstellar civilization and others with a multidimensional awareness. They have to wait for you to become aware of these things, and then they can come in and interact and help us a lot more. But if they were to come in when you're at this level of consciousness, that would be a violation of the Prime Directive, and it would distort the natural development of the human race. So, and all the information that you need is in a course that I made on the internet called the Illuminator, and you could just YouTube that course. It's 53 videos right now. These videos are an exercise in unity, synchronicity, and brinkmanship. Now, I didn't know until about a month ago that the extraterrestrials wanted me to do an experiment and an exercise in brinkmanship, but now that I do know, I'm doing it. So here it is. There's 4 different things. There's 4 different. I'm wearing like 4 different hats right now. One is that I'm an exoproponent, and that is an advocate for extraterrestrial life. That is the word I created to do specifically what I'm doing. I was going to use the word exopolitician, but when I became aware of the different dimensions in extraterrestrial life, I also gained a deep awareness and deep level of understanding of how the government works and how politics work on this planet. And I did not want to get caught up in all the corruption. And then when I became aware of how politics worked in dimensions beyond the one we're in and in extraterrestrial realms, I found that the corruption can be just as bad there as it is here, and I didn't want to get caught up in the politics and the negativity and all that. So I just created that word as exoproponent, and I'm just saying these things so that you know where I'm coming from and you know exactly what I'm trying to do here. I'm also working as an energetic healer. I'm performing energy healing right now on a solar system level, actually. I'm working as a futurist, and you want to know what a futurist is and how that relates to the different dimensions. And I'm also working as a brinksman right now, so you'll want to understand brinksmanship and have a deep level of awareness of that. So basically the 3 things that the human race needs to be aware of are extraterrestrial existence, the existence of different dimensions, and the fact that this is a free will zone, because we need that to achieve freedom on this planet. once I made extraterrestrial contact, I began inventing things and creating different things. And what happened a few times was, in the process of creating these things, I would create something where the intention behind it was to assist in the expansion of consciousness of life on Earth and the spiritual development of life on Earth. And what I found, what happened a few times, was I would create something, and then I would look on the computer 3 weeks, a month later, and the military had new weaponry, and it was exactly what I just created, but it was just being used for weaponry instead of spiritual development or expansion of consciousness. And this happened 2 or 3 times. And I have no paperwork to back this up, but it was just the synchronicity is a little bit too much to think that there wasn't something that I wasn't getting spied on, and this information wasn't taken and being used for something other than what the intention was. I also became aware of the laws of creation. One of the laws of creation is you can only control that which you create, and if you do not create it, you cannot control it. Well, I was creating these things, but I was not in control of them. And there is really no organization on this planet that you can call where they enforce the laws of creation. And the most important laws in creation are the laws of creation. The most important laws of the universe are the laws of the universe. I really didn't know what to do about that, so for a while I stopped creating and began communicating with extraterrestrial life in regards to that, and they suggested that I create in dimensions beyond where this can happen, in dimensions and parallel universes that you cannot see. And so that's what I did. And I created a satellite system. And this is a QSETI satellite system. It's the quantum study of extraterrestrial and interdimensional intelligence. And this satellite system is off limits to the government on this planet in this particular dimension. They're not technologically advanced enough to access this satellite system. So I drew a little diagram to explain prayer and how creation and what I did here. This represents this one universe in all 144 dimensions, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and this is a compressed view of the rest of the dimensions here. So what I did was I peppered every single dimension of this universe with creations, and I went all the way up the line, dimension 3 through dimension 144. And basically how prayer works is, or at least my opinion of what my experience is and how it works and how I can describe it. If you are standing knee deep on the side of a pond, in a pond, knee deep, and this pond is like glass, and you throw a rock right down in front of you, what'll happen is the water will splash up on you, and you'll immediately feel the effects of that, of the fact that you threw the rock. Throwing the rock meaning a prayer. And then you could throw the rock maybe 20 feet away from you, and it'll take a few seconds, but the water will ripple back. And then you could take a rock and throw it as far as you can right out into the middle of a pond, and it'll take a long time, but eventually that rock will come back and ripples will permeate out throughout the entire lake. So basically that's what happened. And you can pray to anyone you want. You could pray to an individual. Like if you pray to an individual in the next dimension up, which is like throwing a rock right down in front of you, and you go out and their doppelganger goes out and winks at you, and you meet them, you prayed to them the day before, and then you go out the next day and they're right there, you see them, well, that prayer was heard, and it's very obvious that prayer was heard. And then let's say you pray to the Pleiadian extraterrestrial race, the Pleiadian collective. Well, then you're throwing the rock way out in the middle of the pond, and your prayers will be heard, but it'll take a little while for it to get back to you, and it won't be so, you know, right in your face. And you can pray to any conscious living entity in the universe, different councils. You can pray to a galaxy, a universe, whatever you want. So, and this Q-SETI system is a very capable system. It's a very powerful and capable system. And basically, there's satellites spinning in the orbit of Pluto, and not spinning around Pluto itself, spinning around the sun, but they're using the same orbit as Pluto, and they cover every planet in the solar system and can communicate instantaneously. So there's no time lag. So if you were using a Q-SETI system to talk to a life form on Venus, it would be like they're standing right in front of you. There would be no time lag at all. And it does a lot of other things, but that's all that you need to know for right now. Just to know that the system is there and it's available for the human race if we gain a multidimensional awareness, and extraterrestrial life is common knowledge. So, and one of the things I'm trying to do is trigger extraterrestrial contact for the entire human race in the same way it was done for me on November in 2010, because once the human race engages extraterrestrial life in that manner, you're just simply not scared of it anymore, and it's a really wonderful and beautiful thing. And I would love for the human race to gain this level of awareness. So as part of this exercise in brinkmanship, I'm trying to trigger that actually happening. Now, extraterrestrial life has to be very careful when they introduce advanced technology to the human race, because if they've done it before and tried to help lower consciousness out with advanced technology, and it always turns out with disastrous results if a being is not prepared to handle that sort of technology. A good example of this would be time travel. Let's say the extraterrestrials came down and gave everybody a time machine. Well, most likely what would happen, and this is just a quick little example, but most likely what would happen is everybody would spend $1 and win the lottery the next day, and everybody would win 50 cents, so everybody would lose. And that's just one example of one form of technology, and there's all sorts of technology out there. And that's that. So one of the things, as exoproponent, another guideline that I became aware of and had to pay particular attention to was the Prime Directive. And the Prime Directive is real. It is basically the Prime Directive is a conceptual guideline preventing advanced life forms from using superior technology or abilities to impose their own values or ideals on less advanced life forms. So, and that is a very loose and general overview of the Prime Directive, and it does get much more specific and complex, and it's not an absolute. But it is something that I had to pay particular attention to in the process of helping expand the consciousness of the human race. Because you can live your life and act on whatever guidelines or laws or rules you want to. It just depends on what your level of consciousness is and what you deem as being valid yourself. And this is a free will zone, so you could deem anything you want valid. And they will disregard, extraterrestrial life will disregard the Prime Directive if it's the right thing to do, or if they were provided with a temporal equivalent of the Prime Directive, so that they can take action that would help the history unfold in the best possible way. And that is what I'm going to be offering extraterrestrial life at this time. Extraterrestrial life has an opportunity. I've already invited them in, and to make clear, direct, and open contact in the physical, right here at my house. And so okay, the reasons for the Prime Directive is so that life at higher levels of existence does not fear with the natural development of a planet. Another is so that they do not interfere with the social order of the planet, and it's for the safety of life on Earth and extraterrestrial life. So what I did in the process of understanding the Prime Directive and going by that guideline, what I did was I identified several violations of the Prime Directive. The Prime Directive has been violated on this planet quite a bit as far as I'm concerned. And here's a few examples of it. The government on this planet has passed laws against gay marriage. Well, when you gain a multidimensional awareness, what you realize is that being gay is just as normal as being straight, and it's just as normal as being bisexual or monogamous or polygamist or anything. These are completely normal things. In fact, there are extremely advanced extraterrestrial races where you're born a male, you're born a female, and in one lifetime the male becomes female and the female becomes male. And their lifespan is about 200 years. But that is a completely normal thing. And conscious life forms are supposed to be experiencing all sorts of different sexual orientations, and so passing a law against gay marriage is passing a law against the natural development of a being, which is a violation of the Prime Directive. And I'm under the impression, from what I understand, that the people who are passing these laws know that. So it's not ignorance. They didn't pass these laws through ignorance. They intentionally violated this directive in that particular case. Another violation of the Prime Directive is the use of sacred time travel and teleportation technologies to fix the elections. The elections on this planet are fixed. They're not. It's not. When you go and vote, you're part of a reality TV show. This is a virtual holographic reality, and time travel and teleportation technologies are being used to fix the elections, and that is a violation of the Prime Directive due to the fact that it affects the natural social order of the planet, and that people would not be following the leaders of this planet if the elections weren't fixed. As I said, I said this, and I'm just going to go over it real quick. In other videos, I had created a business called Police Information Services, and what I did was I monitored police tests and openings for the position of police officer. I covered every police department in Connecticut and became an expert on the selection process for law enforcement. So what I did was I mailed newsletters out to people who wanted to become police officers or police officers who wanted to relocate. And I gained a very, very good awareness of the entire selection process for law enforcement for every police department in Connecticut. And I helped hundreds, probably thousands of people become police officers. Interdimensionally speaking, it could possibly be millions from what I understand about the different dimensions now. But I am the world's foremost expert on the screening process for law enforcement. That is, there's no, I don't know of anybody on this planet that can match me on that. What I have found And now I did not know this when I was running the business and helping people navigate that selection process. But what I found was that when a person goes through the selection process for law enforcement, what they're checking for is the fact that you are insane. They just want to know you're going to see the piece of paper and do what's on the paper, no matter whether it makes sense or not. And the whole time I was running police information services, I did not know this. I did not see it at that level. I was not able to see it at that level. It wasn't until the spaceship landed in my backyard, I made extraterrestrial contact, I gained an extremely acute awareness of the different dimensions. And then, interdimensionally speaking, if you are conducting yourself by a piece of paper and not thinking about what you're doing, basically what's happening is your soul is being recycled. So interdimensionally speaking, it's insane. But if you're not aware of the different dimensions, you're not going to be able to see it. And since the human race has been enslaved, most people are not able to see it. And I'm not saying this to make anybody feel bad or just to be condescending. I'm saying it because it's the truth, and I understand it, and it's my job as exoproponent to bring this information through to you in the truest form I possibly can. And it is not the Human Resource Department that is in violation of the Prime Directive here, because I worked with all of the human resource people, and they're just following their protocol and their job, and they really do not understand because they don't have a multidimensional awareness, so they don't really understand what's going on. But who does understand is the Board of Education, the people who taught the Human Resource Department to do what they do. So it's a very deep level of deceit, and it's a matter of higher consciousness beings taking advantage of lower consciousness beings. And another violation would be the planetary communication system being used to misinform or induce fear on humanity. And a lot of the like right now, if you turn on the news, I can tell you right now, I could barely even watch the news anymore, and 80% of it is nothing but garble. And they're just using it basically to promote war and push vaccines and things like that, and it's really gross. It's really gross what they're doing. And that's basically the mainstream media and the secret government in violation of the Prime Directive there. And another one is vaccines, GMOs, chemtrails, pharmaceuticals, and the way people are diagnosed. Every single human emotion in existence right now, whether it's happiness, sadness, depression, excitement, every single human emotion there is diagnosable as a mental illness, when it's normal to feel different emotions. That's you're supposed to. It's not a mental illness, and it's basically the Department of Health and the Board of Education who are in violation of the Prime Directive in those cases. Now, I would not recommend anybody go out and enforce the Prime Directive. I mean, if you were, a month ago you were incarcerating people for smoking marijuana, you're not at the level of consciousness where you can safely enforce the Prime Directive, because you're going to be up against supernatural forces, and it would be like putting 100 kittens against a pit bull. It's just not, But under the direction of angels, then these issues can be addressed with compassion and intelligence. So, so basically, everything that I'm saying and everything that I have said, I am willing to enter a telepathic environment in front of all life in creation and stand firmly on the truth with everything that I said. And basically addressing life in a higher dimension now. But in the Illuminator course, there is a little bit of disinformation in there. And I did that for two main reasons. One main reason is that course is made up of what I believe to be the finest minds on the planet. There's no one more aware than the people who I chose, whose information I drew from in that course. And when you're dealing with the most intelligent people on the planet, they don't all agree. They don't all agree on everything. Everybody has their own different reality, but they all offer a perception which I feel is worthy of contemplation and necessary to contemplate, because everybody else has their own reality, and we're going to harmonize and synchronize with different people regardless of who you are. So that's one reason. And another reason is I was expecting for the human race to actually do these investigations and prove me wrong in certain areas. And if I was proven wrong with the disinformation that was put in there intentionally, not a lot, but a little bit here and there, those who